Somewhere on an African savanna, tens of thousands of years ago, two humans sat beside a dying fire. The hunt was over. The night was quiet. The stars stretched endlessly above them. One of them reached out, not for food, not for protection, but simply to touch the other's hand. And in that moment, something extraordinary may have happened. Not survival, not instinct, but connection. When did humans first fall in love? Not just mating, not just reproduction, but love. The strange, overwhelming force that rewires the brain, alters decisions, inspires sacrifice, and sometimes breaks us completely. When did our ancestors stop pairing for convenience and start feeling something deeper? The answer may be older than we ever imagined. Imagine you are living 200,000 years ago. You wake with the sun. You walk. You hunt. You gather. You survive. Your world is dangerous. Predators watch from tall grass. Food is uncertain. Injury can mean death. In this world, our survival is everything. And yet, even here, something else begins to grow. Because survival alone doesn't explain what scientists keep finding in the archaeological record. It doesn't explain why certain individuals were buried side by side. It doesn't explain why skeletons are found positioned face to face. It doesn't explain why some bodies show signs of long-term care. Injuries healed over years, disabilities supported by others. Care is costly. Care requires time, energy, risk. And evolution does not favor cost without purpose. Unless the purpose is attachment. Modern neuroscience tells us that love is not just poetry. It is chemistry. Dopamine floods the brain's reward system. Oxytocin deepens trust and bonding. Vasopressin reinforces long-term pair bonds. When you fall in love today, your brain lights up in ways almost identical to addiction. But here's the question. When did this wiring begin? The biological roots of pair bonding may stretch back millions of years. Some primates form long-term partnerships. Gibbons, for example, often live in monogamous pairs. But even there, it is not the same as human love. Human love involves narrative, memory, future planning, jealousy, sacrifice, hope. It requires self-awareness and awareness of another mind. To love someone, you must understand that they exist independently of you, that they have thoughts, that they can leave, that they can die. And that realization changes everything. Let's go back 100,000 years. In what is now Israel, in Kafse Cave, archaeologists uncovered burials that suggest ritual and intention. Bodies arranged carefully, grave goods placed deliberately. Among them, a young individual buried with deer antlers placed across the chest. This was not disposal. It was meaning. Now imagine grief. Grief is not instinct alone. Grief implies attachment strong enough that absence causes pain. The brain regions activated during romantic rejection today overlap with physical pain circuits. In other words, love hurts. But pain itself is evidence of depth. Some skeletons show healed fractures so severe that the injured individual could not have survived alone. A broken femur, for example, takes months to heal. In prehistoric conditions, that meant someone carried them, fed them, protected them. Why? Not for reproduction, not for immediate survival, but because they mattered, as that is the fingerprint of love. Now imagine something even older. Around 1.5 million years ago, Homo erectus began showing signs of extended childhood. Human children are unusually helpless. A newborn cannot walk, cannot cling effectively, cannot feed itself. Raising a child requires cooperation, and cooperation encourages bonding. Some anthropologists argue that romantic love evolved not merely for attraction, but to stabilize partnerships long enough to raise offspring. Love may have been evolution's solution to a biological problem. How do you keep two individuals together long enough to ensure survival? You make them want each other. He notices the way the light traces the outline of her face, the way her long hair frames her expression, the way she looks back at him, aware. And in that silent exchange, something shifts. Not hunger, not fear, recognition. One human shifts closer to another, not out of fear, but comfort. A hand finds a hand. A glance lingers longer than necessary, and somewhere inside that ancient brain, chemicals surge. But alongside the chemistry, something else forms. A thought. I want you here tomorrow. That is the beginning of future-oriented attachment. That is the beginning of promise. We may never find the exact first lovers. No inscription marks their names. No cave painting declares their bond. But every healed injury, every paired burial, every carefully crafted ornament whispers the same possibility. That long before poetry. Long before the language as we know it. Long before cities and civilization. Two humans looked at each other and felt something more than survival. And here is the most astonishing part. The wiring that allowed them to love is still inside you. When your heart races, when separation feels unbearable, when a voice alone can calm you, you are not experiencing something modern. Oh, you are experiencing something ancient, a force that shaped the survival of our species, a force that encouraged cooperation, protection, sacrifice, meaning. Maybe humans didn't become human when we painted lions. Maybe not when we buried our dead. Maybe we became fully human when we realized another mind mattered as much as our own. When we chose connection over isolation. When we risked heartbreak for closeness. Because the moment we first fell in love was the moment survival stopped being enough, and life began to mean something more.